think that where we get trapped is, one, we use create in a very niche sense of the word, which applies to the arts. And I think that's not very helpful.
Yeah.
I think what we also do is, and maybe this is unique to our generation, but maybe it goes all the way back, is that because we exact such high standards on ourselves from everyone else, we've all just become so afraid of being judged for anything that is unique to us, that suddenly it feels like whenever you any form of creativity, in the sense of something that's a novel idea or something that's unique in your sense, it's like raising your head above, the trenches, and you might get shot by a sniper.
Yeah.
So and it doesn't matter what scale that is. It's like, imagine someone like writing a little poem and then putting it out on Instagram. In one way,
People kind of go, who do you think you are?
But then you feel the intense burden of the whole world is looking at your poem. Or, add in a bit of salt into a cake which doesn't have salt on the recipe. That can feel terrifying to some people, because what if the cake tastes bad? What if people don't like the cake because of my little bit of salt I added? Yeah. Every time we inject in originality or something that's unique to us, it's us putting ourselves out there, which makes the act of creativity just scary.
Do you think also that, I remember when I was having a conversation with a friend who found out, not directly, that I'd started a podcast, or I was about to start a podcast, and he said, he was very open. It was a phenomenal conversation. He sort of said, look, it almost felt, I had something in my stomach churned and it was almost like a mirror was held up and put into my face, where, you're not doing, why aren't you doing this? Kind of, it was the people who criticize people who stick their head above the parapet is often it's because they are. I mean, he wasn't doing that. He was being very open, but you pointing to the examples of people who kind of criticize.
Yeah,
it's because they're having a reflection of themselves shown at them by other people's bravery or create. I'm not saying I'm brave, but for people to do things, because it's a reflection of their own lack of adventure.
Yeah, and I just think it takes wrongly, it takes so much courage to be creative. And I think the lack that we have is not a lack of creativity, it's a lack of courage. And that lack of courage is not always down to an internal system of just going, you're not courageous enough. I think more often than not, it's a community responsibility, where if your community is unsafe, your family's broken into a zillion pieces because of arguments and brokenness, and you've gone for a schooling system which has pulled you in multiple directions. You have to get a job in an economic crisis. It's not safe for you to be creative. It's safer for you to play it safe.
Yeah.
And stay it simple. So suddenly this thing which is inherently human and absolutely necessary for the thriving of the human race is this activity which takes a huge amount of courage, because you just have to slightly sidestep the normal. And then, like I said, you can come under fire so quickly. Yeah. And where the imagination being an enemy, not a friend thing comes in, is suddenly, as well as everyone else having a sniper pointed at you, your own imagination has a sniper pointed at you as well.
Well, I'm guessing you would have talked yourself out of doing the book as many times as you've talked yourself into it.
More, I think that's, but in a way that's spurring me on even more. And I think that if that's when we can make the transition, is instead of asking ourselves, are you going to be creative today? I think there's two really good questions to ask. Is one, am I going to be courageous today? And two, if that question is really hard to answer yes to, is there anything I can do to make it easier to be courageous today? And suddenly then you've got a different, more practical kind of you can do more things externally about that question, because it's a very abstract question to go, am I courageous enough to create something today? Is a real like, well, am I? Yes or no? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And that means something very different for everyone. But if you ask yourself the question, what can I do around me to help me take more risks? Like, what are the relationships I have in my life? Does that person that I'm dating make me feel safe and empowered, or do they make me feel like I just need to keep earning money?
Yeah.
Or what food do I eat? Because if I'm like feeling unhealthy every day, then it's making it harder for me to be courageous. So if we ask them questions, and they're every podcast in the world talks about these kind of basic things, maybe not with this language, but in order to be more creative, I think it's a question of creating
the environment for creativity.
Thank you for watching this clip from the Meeting People podcast. To watch the full episode, visit the description or click on this link.